Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.Lesperance, and I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to a better lifestyle. Today we're gonna talk about finance, and I have the pleasure to have CurtisMay. We had a little bit of a 1 or 2 minute discussion before I pressed the record button, so I think you guys are gonna like what we're gonna talk about. So he's in the finance, and he's an entrepreneur. So, like I said, I think you guys are gonna like it. So, please, Curtis, tell everybody who you are, a little bit about your story yourself, and we'll get started.
All right, my man Richard. So thanks for having me. And so I am in just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm in the financial space with a little bit of a different twist, is that I think there is more opportunity in helping clients minimize the losses in their life than trying to, pick winning investments or give your money to people that you don't know and put it outside of your control. But my background is in small business. So I'm a second, actually probably a third generation entrepreneur. My family was in retail. We owned a supermarket growing up in Philly. And so I've heard from the time I was 7, you never make your money work for somebody else. So I never got that go get a good job talk. I was a business major. I actually thought you majored in business to go into business, right? It didn't even occur to me to get a job. I mean, I went to school because I wanted to play pro basketball, but I realized somewhere between my sophomore and junior year, I wasn't that good. So, and the NBA wasn't look for 5'11" shooting guards. And I actually got my professional licenses, my insurance license in college, my junior year in college, and 1985. And so I'll give you an idea of the age, my age. And so I've been doing this a while. And then also a couple years after that, I got what they call securities license, and I was doing mutual funds. And I was a typical buy term investor difference, max out your 401k. I was like Dave Ramsey on steroids for probably the first 13, 14 years of my career. And so I did that, and I enjoyed it because what it really helped me understand is personal development, which is really the key. Because none of the stuff I do today I was any good at. I had no, only thing I had was I was ambitious. I wasn't afraid of money. So I never had, this is probably the basketball player ego, Richard. It's like I didn't really have a self-esteem problem. I was introverted, but I wasn't unconfident, right? And I was, if I met somebody and they were doing it, I thought, well, if this knucklehead can do it, I can do it. So I didn't think anybody was better than me. And I could beat you. So that comes, I think, from the sports background. That's why I like that, people to compete so they can. I tell people to compete, but don't compare. But from that, fast forward, I read in 2000, I read a little book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that kind of rocked my world because it kind of let me know I was on a wrong path. In terms of there's planning for the rich, planning for the poor, planning for the middle class, and I don't think most people are planning to be wealthy or financially free is a better term. And I kind of realized what he was talking about and what I was Kiyosaki, and what I was doing was different. And that set me on the path to I am now, which is really understanding, principles-based planning, which we'll get into a little bit later, and teach people principles that help them become and remain financially free. So that's my long, short story, and I'm sticking to it. So
Uh,
talk to about that.
I like I like what you were saying before, like investing is just not investing. Could you talk to us about that a little bit? What we were talking about?
Yeah. So investing, see, a lot of people think because if that they they put it out of order. So if there's 5 things you should be doing, investing is number 5. It's not number 1, but like most people think it is. Okay. And one of the things that we work on is what is the difference between saving and investing. Okay. And so one of the things that we were talking about before we start recording, I believe that, and it's not even my belief, like you've got to study people with money. You got to study, you got to read biographies. You got to, study Success Leaves Clues. Investing is really about becoming something. it's not about buying something. See, people want to buy. They want always looking for the hottest stock, the hottest tip, the greatest mutual fund. And I'm in the financial business, and I'm going to tell you, there's no financial product in of itself that is going to take you to glory financially. You have to become something. You have to become a good business owner. You have to become a good leader. You have to become a good salesperson, good marketer. And guess what? Becoming is work. So it's the formula is be, become, then do, and then have. You get to have the result of being, right? Of be what so I'm being is so for example, what is investing? So you heard of Warren Buffett?
No, of course.
Right. So now, have you heard of Benjamin Graham?
Yeah.
Right. And see, so you're one of the rare nerdy few like me that so in his book, The Intelligent Investor, here's what, and this is Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Say people think they're in the stock market. They're not in the stock market. They buy businesses, and or buy enough shares to control the outcome. And so that's a key component. Real people with money want control. And so, but Benjamin Graham says that investment is something by which you put your capital into, where you have safety of principle and you have a reasonable opportunity to make a profit. If it doesn't fit that definition, you are speculating. Okay. So most people in the United States and in Canada, they're speculating with the majority of their money because they're listening to the financial institutions and who sole job is to make money off of your money and charge you fees. Right. And so you've got to, comes back to becoming. You've got to decide that you want. So, because what we try to do is help people go from financial dependence, and the transformation is from financial to financial independence, right? Which starts with how you think, then what you do, and then if so you got to become, think, you got to do certain things with your money that leads to the outcome that you want, and then you get to have financial freedom, which is passive income greater than your expenses. And so most people don't want to become. They just want to work and fund their 401k, or what do y'all call it? Not super. What is the version of that in Canada?
Which
the version of what you call 401k, where you take money out.
Well, it's a pension fund. Yeah.
Yeah, but I heard another name. Okay.
You work, you get a job from a company who offers you a pension fund. I'm trying to see now you're getting me off guard, but I don't think like there's a real we have products like different products like financial products, but there's no like really like
okay, and I'm assuming your all your listeners may not be up there. So, but I have some friends of mine that do what I do that are based in Canada, and I've heard them call it something. I just can't call it what it is right now. Okay, and but that's all right.
Maybe.
But the thing is, they teach what I teach. Like you have to have control. So I'll end with this part that segment. That there are 3 rules to investing that we teach at Practical Wealth, right? And then if you want to go into the 5 principles, but the 3 rules are invest in what you know. Okay. Or invest in knowing. Okay. So, so people say, what should I invest in between your 2 ears is my first suggestion, right? And what are you reading? What are you watching to? What are you listening to? Hey, who you're hanging out with? What masterminds you going to? You got to invest in your education, right? The second rule is invest in what you can control. See, can you control it? Does it cash flow? Can you control the outcome? Like if you can't control it, you're not investing, you're speculating. So now that goes with, well, how do you get good at that? You got to practice, study, and teach. You got to learn. You got to read stuff. You have to become better. You see how that ties in? And then the third rule is don't chase returns. See, most people are just chasing returns. And that is, you're always like on a treadmill. Market goes up, market goes down. You can't control any of that. So you have to, but I can control the profitability of my business. If I'm a real estate investor, I can control if it's profitable because you make money when you buy real estate. You don't, if you're buying it and you're saying, well, it's going to go up in value, that's speculating. And that means you don't know what you're doing because that's gambling.
Going back to what you were saying there, the 401k, we have the thing called RRSP.
That's
So
it. Yes, that's it.
yeah, so it's
Same
R.
thing, same concept. Tax deferred, but again, if you don't have control of the money.
And we have also TFSA also too. But the RRSP is more like for the retirement, like
Right.
thing.
Right.
Plus they have the other option, like if they get a job with a company, like they get the pension plan and all that. So
Right.
yeah.
So we have very few pensions in the US anymore. Maybe less than 15% of my clients have a pension if they had to work for a government, or most companies have let that go. They've gone for, it's called a defined contribution. No, a defined benefit plan, right? It was, they used to be called, where you do this, you're going to get this amount at retirement. Most are them, both of the plans are defined contributions. You put in a set amount of money, which is you have to save it, but you're really investing it, but nobody told you were investing, right? And so you're really just speculating with like 80% of your money, your long-term money, hoping the market goes up. And that's, hope is not a good foundational strategy. I'll just say it that like that. So,
But you guys too, you have the IRA and
yeah, I don't like none of them. Okay, if it's involved with because all they're really, I should say that. I should all make a blanket statement like that, but you have to. So when you're deferring taxes, you got to ask yourself, whatever country you're in, will the government need more money in the future or less? Right. So if you're getting a deferral in taxes, you're just postponing taxes, and then you're pulling them out at a time where your taxes might not necessarily be down. Right. And so now there's a story I'll ask people. Listen, if I was a farmer, Richard, and I came to you and said, listen, I'm going to give you a tax break on the seed, the little, say a bushel full of seed corn so you could plant your field, and then I'll give you a tax break on the seed. But what I want is that harvest, that whole field of corn. I want to tax the harvest in the future. And oh, by the way, I'm not sure how much I'll need, so I'll let you know when we get there how much money I need to take off the harvest. Okay. And so most people, if you say that, no, I don't want that. I said, or I can give you pay tax on the seed and get your harvest tax free. Most people would choose that option, and they can choose that option, but they don't know that they have an option, and you do. So how can you pay tax on the harvest and get your money out tax free? And that's what, one of the things that, as you understand the rules, that's where you have to educate yourself on the rules, the tax rules, the this, that, and they're basically the same in every country. A great book on that is Tax-Free Wealth by, not Tax-Free Wealth. Yeah, Tax-Free Wealth by, I'm looking at my bookshelf, Tom Wheelwright, who was Robert Kiyosaki's CPA. And so he kind of teaches nationally, and all of the taxes are the same. They're really stimulus programs. So what does the government want? They want food, they want energy, they want housing, and they want jobs. Right. So for the most part, the advantages are not loopholes. They're just incentives for you to do what the government needs help with. And then they'll give you a tax break or something for doing that. So you have to research that wherever you're listening to that. But that's, and then Tom Murray has a podcast, and get his book. So Curtis has no original thoughts. So
can you talk to us about the 5 steps?
Yeah. So the 5 steps, or what we call principles-based planning, financial planning, are this. Okay. So the first step when it comes, so when money hits your personal economy, what's your philosophy? So I'm going to give you 2 pre-steps for that. So the pre-step is you've got to make a decision that, and this is right from this book that y'all should pick up. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. Okay. And the lessons are, part of all you earn is yours to keep. Right. So because most people, what they do is they earn money, they pay their bills, and they say, well, if I have any money left over, I'll save it. Okay. So let me say this clearly. If you think that way, you are going to be poor. Okay. Or broke. All right. You have to pay yourself first. So if you make $3,000, 10% of that will be $300. So you have to pay yourself first. Literally set an account, put that $300 in, and then you live off the $2,700. So that's the decision you have to make. And then the second one, pre 5-step is spend less than you make. So you have to manage your cash flow. Most wealth is lost by how people manage their cash flow. They don't look at their inflow and their outgo. So I spend a lot of time with people on that. Now, so here are the principles then. Because if I don't fix that part, you can't do my first principle, which is save 15% of your gross income. Gross income. Let me define savings. Safe, liquid, accessible, meaning you can get to it, guaranteed. Okay, guaranteed growth, guaranteed rates of return. You can't lose money. So you have to build your foundation on money that you can access capital. The second principle, I'll go through these faster, is protect. You have to protect. You have to play defense. Defense wins championships, right? And so you have to protect. You got to protect your stuff, which is proper liability coverage on your auto, your homeowners, and having, I guess it's the same up there, umbrella coverage, personal liability protection. Okay. You got to protect your income. What if you get hurt and you can't work? That's disability insurance. What if you get sick? Obviously, that's health insurance. There's, what if you get sued? That's your liability coverage. What if you die? That's life insurance. Most people are underinsured with your life insurance. What happens if you die and your kids are young and you don't want them to have, if you've got proper insurance, you should have a couple, 2, 3, 4 million of protection. And so if you're like 40, you need take your annual income multiplied by 20. So if you have less than that, you're underinsured. Okay. And I'm not even going to get into the types on this call, but just, look at that. And then you want to protect your legacy, right? Wills, trust, healthcare directives, power of attorney. So it's different where you're listening at, but that's under our second level, which we teach is maximum protection. That's principle 2. Principle 3 is legacy, full replacement of assets at death, guaranteed. And what we teach against is this concept of self-insurance, this myth of self-insurance. And so what you'll hear out there is that, all right, you got $1 million, you don't need life insurance anymore. You can just let your life insurance go. And some people call it the theory of decreasing responsibility. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'll ask people, listen, if you had your house paid off, would you drop your homeowner's insurance? Most reasonable people will say no, right? If you had your house, let's say your house worth $400,000, you have $400,000 in cash. Would you drop your homeowner's insurance? The answer is still no, because if you have the insurance, doesn't that free up that $400,000 to do whatever you want? Because you have the insurance, you transfer the risk to the insurance company for that money. So that frees up your capital to do whatever you want to do with. The fourth principle, and we can go back to any of these you want to go deeper into. The fourth principle is liquidity. Most people, because they don't do a good job at principle 1, save 15% of your gross income. If they do it, they're doing it putting investments where they don't have access to it. So they're illiquid, right? So we teach 6 to 12 months of your income in cash or cash equivalent accounts. Okay. And now they're not going to just sit there because money has to move, but you want to have it because COVID proved most people are way too illiquid. Most businesses are way too illiquid. So you've got to have more capital. And if you don't need it, guess what? Now you have money for opportunities because most people don't have cash. And so if you have access to capital and opportunity presents itself to buy a property, pennies on the dollar, or buy a competitor's business up, or help them out or do private lending, because you have capital, you have opportunities because you have the money. And so if you marry the money up with the knowledge, right? Opportunities is when success is when opportunity meets with preparation, right? And so good financial planning is not about investing. It's more about preparation and provisioning against things going wrong so you don't lose ground. And then the last one is velocity of money. Most people are been trained in finance under what we call affectionately the accumulation theory, which teaches, this is what typical financial advice teaches, buy and hold, max out your 401k, dollar cost average, you're in it for the long haul. Did you target date mutual funds where at this age you need this much, you need 80% in stocks and 20% in bonds, all that stuff, right? Which basically admits they don't know last time I checked, nobody has a working crystal ball. So you're betting on hope. Okay, hopium, right? And whereas as I've studied, and you read stuff like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrants, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing, you hear the term velocity of money, right? So if you look at what institutions do, what wealthy people do, they handle money not differently, like literally the complete opposite. So what do they focus on? Velocity of money, which is just an economic principle of moving money in and out of assets. So if y'all guys have ever watched Shark Tank, what does Mr. Wonderful always want to know? He says, oh, hey, look, if I put this $500,000 in your deal, when am I getting my money back? So his return of his money. Why? Because when he gets it back, guess what his risk is? Zero, right? Because he got all his capital back. And then now he still have an interest in a company. Then he moves that money into another deal. And then he gets that back and he moves to another deal. Or people do it. Most of my clients are real estate investors, right? So they do the same thing with real estate. And it's called the Burr method. So that's velocity. They want cash flow. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. So you can't eat equity. Most people are investing for capital gains. They're buying low and selling high. What you want to do, if you want to live your best life and travel and what it calls Maslow's hierarchy needs, self-actualize. Self-actualization comes from cash flow. Okay. You need passive income. We say twice your expenses. And I have a program called, I have a newsletter called the Cash Flow and Air, and we have a Money for Life Club. And so in that, we have a whole other set of principles. We call getting to a position of FU. And so we've got 20 principles of FU, right? Because we're trying to toughen our people up. We seek opportunity out of every adversity. We run towards ugly situations. You solve problems by taking massive action. So we really work on the mindset component of becoming within that community. So it's velocity, with the emphasis on cash flow. Are you growing? And what you should measure is every quarter or every year, is my passive income greater than it was the year before? And those are the 5 principles. So if you follow that, you'll be doing all right.
So in this inflation seasons, people might have a hard time saving and all that. So what would you say about that?
I don't care. You got to do it anyway. I mean, that's a decision. So in inflation, well, it's 2 parts. That's a decision. Okay. Because if you don't save money and life happens and an opportunity comes up, what are you going to have to do? Put on a credit card. You're going into debt. So now all you've done was spend the future money, right? You've borrowed money you don't have, and you spent money you've not yet earned. Okay. So you've got to have a philosophy about how you handle money. Markets change. Interest rates go up and interest rates go down. Inflation, most people need to understand what inflation is. That's a longer story, but inflation is not rising prices. Rising prices are a result of monetary inflation. So it's a result of money printing. It's a result. And so you see it in the form of higher prices because you got a lot of dollars chasing the same goods, but that's not inflation. So people don't understand economics. So they vote against their interests because they don't really understand what's going on. And they're just frustrated. So you have to take a time, because you can't control the economy, but you can control your personal economy, which is your production and your consumption as a family unit. That's all economics is. It's from a Greek word, economos, which just means house manager. So you've got scarce resources coming into your household. You've got to manage it. So you're going to have inflation. What can you do about that? Well, can you control your consumption? Yes, because you can do stuff to make additional money. Can you control your consumption? Yes, you can. Are you managing cash flow? Are you spending money in inefficient places? Are you, we call these wealth transfers. So we help when I look at a client situation, I look at how they manage cash flow. Here are the 6 places where most money is lost: how you manage cash flow, how you pay mortgages, how you taxes, how you fund whatever government qualified plan. Most people put way too much money in there, so they have all this money they don't have access to. How they pay for educational expenses and how they finance things, how they pay for big ticket items. So there's more money lost in those 5 things, then they'll ever make trying to pick winners. So you have to identify them, either eliminate or reduce wealth transfers. And I'm not the guy that says, oh, you can't go to Starbucks. You can't. There's so many things that you can do before you just cut back. But most people have a lot of waste in what they're doing. If unless you're like poor, which in case I don't think you're listening to this show, but if you're broke, I got people that make 200 grand a year. They're broke because they spend 210. But most of the time the money's there, and what we do is help them kind of reorganize it. And on one couple, same situation, in 20 minutes I found them $16,000 a year, $1,300 a month that was there, but it was misallocated. So because I look at your finances differently, so you have to look at your stuff, write it out or get a program so you can see it, right? And then figure out what's coming in and where's it going. That's step one to inflation. But the first bill that's got to get paid is you. I don't care what you're making. I don't care about inflation. So I want y'all to hear that loud and clear, because it's you've got to figure out how to solve it. That's your job. You're the CEO of your life. I'm a little bit hyped about that, Richard. So that's called a Curtis rant. So you just pull me back.
No problem. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were talking before earlier about one of the problem businesses have is I think liquidity. Is that what you were saying?
Liquidity, right? Just don't have enough savings. Don't have enough money they can access to capital, I call it.
Okay. So how can they fix that?
They can save 15-20% of their gross income.
Same thing.
That's where it comes from. That's what I mean. See, there's an order. The steps are in order. You've got to save money. Now, I teach people a different place to store it. So we show one of the things. So here's my framework. Principles drive strategy, right? And strategy drives tactics. Okay. So tactics are products that you may buy to implement the strategy. So I teach a strategy. Some people may have heard the term infinite banking, how to be your own banker. So we call it money for life or private reserve in our system. But I learned this from R. Nelson Nash, who has a great book called Becoming Your Own Banker. So who controls the banking function? See, we were talking about inflation. 35 cents of every dollar leaves everybody on this call, household or business, in the form of debt to others. So you're giving 35 cents of every dollar to a financial institution. Okay. So what if you could pay yourself first and build a pool of capital that you control and you can recapture, it's going to take a few years, but you can begin to recapture that energy, all this money that's leaving your personal economy, and bring that interest, opportunity cost, and principal payments back to you. And so now you're getting the profits you're giving away to Chase or to Wells Fargo or to whoever, and then so it's all about how you think, right? And so for your business, you got to do the same thing. I save 15% of my gross revenue, and then I put it in properly structured dividend paying whole life policies. And then when I have a estimated tax bill, or I need equipment, or I'm going to a workshop or something, I might put it on a credit card to get the points, and then when I get back, I take a loan against my insurance policy, pay that off, and then create a payback plan with interest back to me. So now I'm controlling the environment. I'm creating my own basically monetary system. And that's what, kind of what I work on. But you got to have the fundamentals of understanding managing cash flow, how money works, how institutions make money. And then you can copy that, because all that stuff works in personal finance. They just don't want you to know about it, because if you knew this stuff, you wouldn't give them most of your money. I'm stepping some toes. Like this time the revolution will not be televised. Right. Oh no. And so you got to kind of learn the game, so to speak. But everybody works out better. The country works out better, the citizens, because we look for people to save us, but there's nobody coming to save you. You are your savior, right? And so you build a community from the bottom up, one family at a time, take control of their money, reclaiming their liberty, right? But that makes the overall country stronger. But I don't think it comes from top down. I don't think you can legislate success. And so I think you got to control what you can control. And most people abdicate control. And you have to decide, again, going back to becoming, that you want to be in control.
What type of clients do you work with?
Usually? Mostly people that are attracted to me are, one, their goal is what I call a work optional lifestyle. So meaning that they want to become financially free. Their goal is passive income greater than expenses. And so the people that seem to be attracted to my message are real estate investors, small business owners, and people, professionals that aspire to those two things. They're looking at buying a franchise. They're got a side hustle where they got 5 or 6 properties, trying to have a portfolio of rental properties or apartment buildings. And so what I teach them, because they've been trained to lock their money up in plans where they can't touch, I'm like, no, all of my clients know or feel they can make their money make more money in the S&P. And so if you have control, you can do that if you're willing to learn how to do that. And so or the people I meet are already doing that, and I'm the advisor that tells them they're not crazy. And I'm not going to, you got a business, so I'm not going to tell you to put a bunch of money in down here in the States, a solo 401k, or take all this money and put it in mutual funds. When if you put $1 in your business in marketing and you make $2, that's 100% return. Why would you do anything else other than that? So I get that, right? And I tell them that, and they're like, oh, okay, good. Because they're thinking they're crazy because they hang around people with their W-2 jobs, right? So planning for people with employment and business owners, it's a completely different look at it. And so you can't take the advice. You can't take employee advice if you're a business owner. That financial advice is literally toxic for your business, because it's around. I'm ready to do a program on it that if y'all follow me, you'll see me come out with it. But business advice is different for business owners because you're told to send money away from your business, whereas you need to have control of it so that when you see an opportunity, you're liquid enough to do it, and it builds your cash flow so that you can get out the rat race. So every year you should be looking at, how is my passive income, not my earned income, growing? And if you can get your passive income to equal or surpass your earned income from your job or even from your business, now you're financially free, which is a capability, right? And so you have to, but most people aren't doing that. They're just putting away where they can't touch it, and they're not buying back their life. They're not buying assets. I had a client we borrowed against his insurance policy. He's got 4 properties. He couldn't buy, he couldn't find anything. So he's all right. I have a call I do every Saturday for our clients and members of our site. And we got on a topic. I always throw out there, what are y'all doing to make money? Name 10 things you could do to make new money. See, first thing, you got to think about how to make money, right? And money is a result of creating value in the marketplace. So people say, well, there's inflation. I need more money. Okay. Figure out how you can create more value in the marketplace that people will pay you for. And that's where the money comes from. That's how you fight inflation. That's how I fight inflation. I just figure out how to become more valuable. How can I serve more people? How can I solve more problems for others? Right. And then I forgot my thought. But so then you
were talking about ways of creating money.
Yeah. So we talked about, so anyway, on that, somehow we got to talk about Turo and rental cars, and had people in my clients that were, buying cars and renting them out. And so he heard that, and then next he called me up for our quarterly check, and he goes, yeah, I saw the paperwork come through. I said, yeah, I just bought a car. So he bought a 2006 Nissan Sentra for $6,000. He put it on, it's something out there called hire car, right? It says Turo, this hire car, which take a little bit older cars, had 120,000 miles on it. He put it out there, $38 a day. And within 2 days, it was rented. And the guys had the car at the time of this recording over a month and a half. right? So if he just, I calculated, if he just rent the car out 25 days out of the month, that's over $900 a month in cash flow, right? And then, so guess what he did? He turned around. So, okay, this is working. Let's buy another one. Same car, $6,000. Now he's got two of them out there. So he's almost in 2 months generated probably about $1,800 a month in new cash flow without his labor, because he thought. See, if you read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, right? And so he was in an environment that promoted cash flow, our community. He heard an idea and then he took action. He said, let me research this. And the next thing I know, because I don't have a program on it, I don't even do it. He's making me ashamed. I was like, all right, my daughter's in college. She's not using her car. I'm going to get her car detailed and I'm going to put it up on the app, And so that's the kind of stuff. That's how you fight inflation. Let me go back to that, because I would see, because y'all sitting here acting like a victim and you're not, And so that's where the leadership because what you invest in, Richard, is your mindset, your skill set. Skills are what makes money in your network. Who do you know and who knows you? And see, so Jim Rohn, who I'm a big fan of, says the winds of adversity blow on us all. The difference is how you set the sail. And see, so through personal development, I always work on, can I set a better sail? He says, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. So I focus on that, because that's the only thing I can control, my attitude and my activity, what I do. Be, attitude, do, activity, have. The result I want comes from how I think. That's good. I didn't even put that together like that before. That was good stuff. Are we recording? This is good.
No, yeah, we're still recording.
Send me that clip. That's some good stuff right there. All right.
We're still recording.
All right.
Any common mistakes you see people do when it comes to their finances?
Yes, they don't. Step one is they don't know what's coming. The number one thing is they don't pay themselves first. I'm gonna give you an easy way to do that. So I want people to say 50. So that's the first one. They don't manage your cash flow. See, the game is won and lost at cash flow management. So they don't know what's coming in, what's going out. And so, which is their budget, or if you're in business, which you are, and if you don't have a business, your income statement. And if you can't control that, somebody will always control you, right? If you are making $1 but spending $1.10 using credit cards to finance your shortfall, that's the number one problem. You have to whip that. See, if you can't whip that, because if you invest, I got to chase investments, I got to flip this house, the brokenness is a symptom. Okay. What you want to do is you want to treat the disease, which is your philosophy about money. Right. And so most people don't have a money problem, they have a philosophy problem. So number one problem I see is they haven't decided that part of all they earn is theirs to keep, and they don't manage your cash flow. And so that they spend less than they make. And so those are the probably 95% of the people I see, even if they make a lot of money. I just got off a client, household income $400,000 a year. The money's there, but I'm installing for them a cash flow management system so they can really separate their real estate from their personal, from their business, from their job money. It's all like commingled, so they don't really have clarity. And so where there's not clarity, there's anxiety, right? And so I call it, you have a low financial ceiling, right? And so if your ceiling is low, you're frustrated, right? You have an anxiety level, but if you raise your knowledge, as your knowledge goes up, what goes down? Your anxiety goes down, because you now know more ways to solve the problem. Investing is not risky. Being uneducated is risky. So as your knowledge goes up, your risk comes down. So you have more control of this stuff than you think you do.
So we gotta wrap it up. Any last words you would like to say in regards to everything we talked about?
I would say, if you want to start, where do I start? I would start with two things. One, I would make sure I read 10 to 15 pages a day. And if y'all email me, I'll give you a recommended reading list to curtmay@gmail.com. Two, I would say create a separate checking account. I want you to nickname it your wealth capture account. I want you to take 15%. So if you have a job, go to create that account, go to your job and calculate wherever 15% of your paycheck is and have them direct deposit that into that account and have a separate account for your bills. I don't want nothing come out of that account. I don't want a debit card attached to that account. You don't pay bills out that account. That's your money so that you can create wealth account and then pay your bills and tithes and all that stuff with all the rest of the money. And you will be amazed that you will get used to it. You won't go into it and you'll look up and you'll have it in I wouldn't even wait a year. I will look at it every 3 months. How am I doing? And you'll get more excited about it. And if you just do that now, if you learn how to create little side hustles to make even more money and you save 15, 20% of that money, now you'll find yourself making progress, right? And then the only way to measure, this is the last thing I'll say, is you want to learn, I learned from Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, you want to learn to measure backwards, right? So you want to look at where you are and then so if you could go back and look at where you were in January and then when at December 31st, you might not have hit your goals, but you may have made progress, right? Your debt is down. You're more control of your money. You might have bought a rental property. You might want it 3, but you bought 1. So you got an extra $500 a month of cash flow. That's progress. So you need to celebrate your wins.
Where can people find you on social media or the internet?
So on the internet, you can go to practicalwealth.net. Also, Richard, I'm going to send you when we get done. I have I don't have the URL. My assistant just created. We have a website for your listeners where you can go take you to our site. We have a free report called Creating Wealth Using the Velocity of Money, or they can also text, just while I'm thinking about it, Be the Bank, all caps, all one word, to 55444. So that's Be the Bank to 55444. You can find me on YouTube at @CurtisMay. You can find me on IG. What is my IG? CurtisMay 4766. Really boring. I haven't fixed it yet. And then I also find me on LinkedIn. I don't really go on Facebook that much, but LinkedIn and IG is kind of where I live.
Okay. I'll have the information in the show notes. I had forgot to say at the beginning.
Oh, and check out my podcast. I'm sorry, podcast, The Practical Wealth Show.
Talk to us about the podcast.
So the podcast, if you like more of the madness of Curtis, you just heard, all right, the best 2 places to find it are on the, and even from the website, you can find, it'll take you to all these places, but I do the YouTube, I do the video, because some people like video, a lot of times when teaching stuff, and then also the audio, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, if you search, the show is called The Practical Wealth Show. And our theme is kind of wealth outside of Wall Street, but the theme is really stuff I've been talking about, how to become, and so we try to interview successful people on how are they thinking, what are the clues, how they look at stuff, what do they think about, what are they reading, I'll do some stuff on health. I want people to take care of their health. I've interviewed Dr. Joel Wallach, who has a lecture series called Dead Doctors Don't Lie. I think that's my highest performing video. And right before COVID, what can people do to kind of protect themselves from COVID, naturally? And the show is kind of about that. And so whatever I'm interested in, and so there's 4 asset classes when it comes to investing. There's business, there's real estate, there's paper assets, and then there's commodities, gold, silver, oil and gas. And so what we do on our show is, outside of me teaching principles-based planning, now I'm interviewing people to have y'all thinking about cash flow or looking at maybe investing in other people that will produce cash flow for you. But it's all about cash flow. So that's what the show's about.
Okay. I was gonna say before, at the beginning of the show, I didn't say the disclaimer. This is for education purposes only. So please,
entertainment and educational purposes only, and do not take anything I say as gospel. Work with your advisor.
Do your own research before you make any decisions,
because it's becoming, sis, you can't fall back into what do I do? Because if you're thinking like that, then if it goes wrong, you're looking to blame somebody, because it can't be my fault because I didn't know, I trusted them. Well, don't.
Yeah. So that's the disclaimer. Do your
That's the
own
disclaimer. So you're
do
all disclaimed, right?
do your own research
Your own
before you
research.
make do your own research before you make any decisions, please. So on that note, thank you very much. Thank you, Curtis. It was nice meeting you. Uh, Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. My name is RichardLesperance, and I go by the name of my man Richard. And I was with CurtisMay. And we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Bye.
My man.
All right. Bye.